Your biggest mistake was spitting on the wrong man. On the architect of your world.
I'm Nathan Cooper, and I work in cybersecurity consulting. My company handles infrastructure design and maintenance for Fortune 500 companies, occasionally government agencies, basically anyone who needs their digital systems locked down tight. It pays extremely well, and I'm genuinely good at it. But here's the thing about cybersecurity. The moment people know what you do, they either want free tech support for their iPhone or they get paranoid you're reading their emails. So I learned early on to just tell people I build furniture, which I actually do as a hobby. It's therapeutic. I enjoy working with my hands, and it's a hell of a lot easier than explaining network architecture at cocktail parties. My wife, Rachel, works for Summit Creative, this massive marketing agency that charges six figures to tell companies their logo needs to be more dynamic. She's legitimately brilliant at what she does, always has been since we met in college. Every year, Summit throws this enormous corporate party at a rooftop bar downtown. We're talking marble floors, crystal chandeliers, appetizers that cost more per bite than a regular meal, and jazz music that sounds like cats walking on a piano. The kind of event where everyone's smile is rehearsed, and their handshake comes with a mental calculation of your net worth. Rachel had been stressing about this party for weeks. Her boss, Derek Walsh, ran the creative department like a dictator with a Pinterest board and an ego the size of Texas. The guy was legendary at Summit, and not in a good way. More like the kind of legend involving HR complaints that mysteriously disappeared and junior employees who requested transfers after working under him for a few months. He wore suits that probably cost more than our mortgage payment and used enough hair gel to survive a hurricane. The night of the party, Rachel looked absolutely stunning in this emerald dress, while I threw on a navy suit I'd owned since 2019. We showed up, and immediately the atmosphere was thick with corporate posturing. Everyone was networking like their lives depended on it, which for some of them it probably did. There was Jeremy from Digital, who wouldn't shut up about his podcast that had maybe 50 listeners, Sandra from Client Relations laughing too loud at her own stories, and Todd, who tried to explain blockchain to anyone who made eye contact. I was doing my usual thing at these events, standing around with a beer, being Rachel's plus one, nodding politely while people discussed quarterly projections like they were solving world hunger. Most of her coworkers knew me as the carpenter husband, the guy who made furniture and showed up to smile at parties, which was completely fine by me. Let them think I spent my days at Home Depot arguing about lumber grades. It kept things simple. About 2 hours into the party, I noticed the energy shift. Derek Walsh started making his rounds, working the room like a politician. He had that kind of presence where everyone suddenly straightened up and laughed just a bit too hard at whatever he said. The man commanded attention, not because he was charismatic, but because he was their boss and controlled their paychecks and promotions. He was clearly drunk when he approached us, swaying slightly with that overconfident smile people get when they've had 3 drinks too many. His eyes swept over Rachel in a way that made my jaw clench, then landed on me like I was an interesting stain on an otherwise clean carpet. "Clara," he said to Rachel, even though her name is Rachel. He was that drunk. Then he corrected himself. "Rachel, there's my star player. And you must be Nathan, the craftsman." The way he said craftsman made it sound like I made macaroni art for kindergartens. I felt Rachel's hand squeeze my arm in warning, but I stayed professional, shook his hand, and said I made things that last longer than advertising slogans. A few people nearby laughed. Derek's smile stayed frozen, but something flickered in his eyes. The guy wasn't used to being the punchline, but he wasn't done. Guys like Derek never let things go when they think they've found someone they can punch down on. He launched into this whole speech about how hard Rachel works, how dedicated she is to the company, how she's always available for late nights and weekend emergencies. "The creative department never sleeps," he announced to the growing audience around us. Then he put his hand on my shoulder like we were buddies and said the words that would eventually destroy his career. "Here's the thing, buddy. At work, she's mine. I need her. She's there. Project deadline at midnight, she's there. Client emergency on Sunday, she's there. That's how we operate in the big leagues." He paused, making sure everyone was listening, which they absolutely were. The jazz band might as well have stopped playing. "So what I'm saying is, she's mine at work. You wait for your turn at home." The silence that followed was deafening. Someone actually gasped. Deborah from accounting looked like she'd witnessed a car accident. Even Todd stopped mid-blockchain explanation to stare. Rachel's face cycled through pale to red faster than a slot machine. I could feel her mortification radiating off her in waves. But Derek wasn't finished. In what can only be described as spectacularly poor judgment, Fueled by expensive whiskey and an ego that should have its own zip code, he actually leaned forward and spat. Not a full spit, but one of those dismissive gestures that's somehow worse, like I wasn't worth the effort of a proper insult. I reached up slowly, wiped my face with one of those overpriced napkins, and maintained eye contact with Derek, who was still grinning like he'd won some alpha male championship. "You sure you're her boss?" I said calmly, conversationally. Because that's the kind of behavior HR usually uses as training material. You know, in those what not to do videos they show during orientation? Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Derek's face started shifting from smug to confused to something approaching concern. Before he could respond, Rachel grabbed my arm with a grip that could bend steel and dragged me toward a private balcony area. She was smiling at coworkers as we passed, but her voice was pure fury when we got outside. "What the hell was that, Nathan? You embarrassed him. In front of the entire creative department, half the executives, everyone. Do you have any idea what you've just done?" "I believe experts call it standing up to a bully," I said, trying to keep my tone light, though I'm open to other interpretations. "He was drunk," she protested, but even she didn't sound convinced. So am I. 2 beers deep, and somehow I'm managing not to spit on people and claim ownership of other human beings like I'm some feudal lord. I paused, studying her face. Wait, is this normal for him? Does he always act like this? She struggled to find words that would make Derek's behavior acceptable. He can be intense, demanding, but he's never... She trailed off. "Nathan, this is my job. This is my career. I've worked so hard to get where I am. And Derek, like him or not, he has influence. He can make or break people at this company, and you just humiliated him in front of everyone." "Good," I said flatly. "He deserved it." "That's not how this works. You don't just embarrass your wife's boss because he said something stupid while drunk. You smile, you nod, you let it go, and then we talk about it at home like adults." "He spat on me, Rachel. That's not a let it go situation. That's a call security situation." She took a deep breath, shifting into damage control mode. "I need to go back in there. I need to smooth this over, apologize on your behalf." "Don't apologize for me. I'm not sorry that I stood up to a guy who treats you like property. I'm not sorry I called him out, and I'm definitely not sorry I embarrassed him. Maybe he needed to be embarrassed." We stood there staring at each other, the city humming below us. She was weighing her career against her dignity, calculating the cost of standing by me versus standing by her boss. Finally, she shook her head. "I can't believe you sometimes. This is my livelihood, our livelihood, the mortgage, the car payments, everything. I need to go back in there and fix this. You just stay out here for a bit. Cool off. Don't talk to anyone, especially not Derek." I watched her walk back inside and stayed on that balcony for a while, watching the city lights. Here's what Rachel didn't know, what Derek definitely didn't know, what maybe 3 people in Summit's IT department knew. Summit Creative's entire server infrastructure was built on a system I personally designed 3 years ago. My consulting firm had done everything, soup to nuts, and we still maintained it under a very quiet, very lucrative contract that came up for renewal every 18 months. Derek's entire kingdom, all his award-winning campaigns, all his precious intellectual property, was sitting on infrastructure I built, protected by firewalls I designed, backed up by security protocols I maintained. The carpenter he'd just spat on could theoretically bring his entire company to its knees with a few keystrokes. Not that I would, obviously. I'm not a psychopath, and it would be incredibly illegal. But the point was, Derek had just picked a fight with the one person at the party who actually had leverage over him, even if he was too drunk and arrogant to realize it. I finished my beer and headed back inside. Rachel was across the room doing damage control with what looked like Derek's assistant and a couple of senior VPs. She looked stressed but composed. I got another beer from the bartender who gave me a look that was either respect or horror, hard to tell. 3 days later, I was in my home office working on a proposal for a bank in Chicago when I got an email from my business partner, Marcus Chen. The subject line read, "Summit Creative having a bad day? LOL." He'd forwarded me an email chain from Summit's systems administrator, one of those classic corporate panic spirals where everyone's replying all and nobody's actually solving anything. The message was about an urgent server outage affecting all creative department files with suspected data corruption. I snorted coffee through my nose. I logged into Summit's back-end system using my admin credentials and immediately saw the problem. Their systems administrator had ignored approximately 17 automated warnings about a critical security update. 17. The update patched a vulnerability in their file management system. Without it, the database could develop corruption issues if multiple users tried accessing large files simultaneously, which is exactly what happened when the entire creative department tried downloading the same client presentation at 8 a.m. Tuesday morning. I could fix it in about 20 minutes. The question was whether I should. My phone rang. Rachel. The servers are down at work. Everything's down. We have a client presentation in 3 hours that we can't access, and Derek is losing his mind. He's yelling at IT's yelling at each other, and nobody knows what's happening. I just needed to hear your voice. This day is already a disaster. Guilt is a funny thing. It can make you do stupid, selfless things even when the vindictive part of your brain is screaming to stand down. I looked at my computer screen at the simple fix that would take less time than microwaving popcorn and sighed. It's probably just a system update issue, I said carefully. These things usually resolve themselves pretty quickly. I hung up and stared at my screen for another 30 seconds, having an internal debate about marriage, loyalty, and whether being the bigger person was worth it when the smaller person was such a colossal A. Then I fixed it. 22 minutes later, Summit's servers were humming along like nothing had happened. I had patched the vulnerability, cleaned up the corrupted data, and even optimized a few things because I'm a professional and I take pride in my work, even when the client is a jackass. About an hour later, Marcus forwarded me another email. This one was from Derek himself, sent to the entire company with that self-congratulatory tone managers use when they want credit for something they had nothing to do with. Team, thanks to my direct intervention and quick thinking, we've resolved this morning's technical issues. I worked closely with our IT department to identify and fix the problem. This is why strong leadership matters in crisis situations. I actually laughed out loud. The man had gone from screaming at IT to taking full credit for a fix he didn't even know had happened. Dude, did you see this? Marcus texted. You gonna say something? Nope, playing the long game now. See, here's what Derek didn't know. Every action on their system was logged, time-stamped, and attributed to specific user accounts. My user account specifically. But more importantly, Derek's little heroic narrative had caught the attention of someone who mattered. By Thursday afternoon, Rachel called again with different energy entirely. You're not going to believe this. The board decided to do a full IT audit. Something about wanting to understand our technical infrastructure after this week's outage. Derek's been bragging about his tech skills, and apparently someone on the board actually knows about computers and wants to verify our systems are solid. She laughed. He's been in meetings all day. It's kind of satisfying, actually. Audits are thorough. They look at contracts, vendor relationships, system logs, everything. And when Summit's board brought in auditors to examine the company's cybersecurity infrastructure, they were going to find something very interesting in the confidential vendor files, a contract with Cooper and Chen Cybersecurity Solutions, with me listed as senior consultant and primary system architect. By the following Monday, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with texts from Rachel. Confused texts. Okay, so something weird is happening. Call me when you can. I was at Home Depot, actually doing carpenter stuff because irony is alive and well when she called. Nathan, what did you do? I'm trying to decide between early American and special walnut wood stain. Why? What's up? Nathan, I'm serious. What did you do? Everyone's talking. The audit report came back, and apparently your name is all over it. People are saying you're not a carpenter, that you're some kind of cybersecurity expert, that you built our entire server infrastructure. Is this true? The cat was out of the bag. Yeah, about 3 years ago, my company got the contract. It's good work, solid pay, interesting challenges. I didn't mention it because honestly, it never really came up. You were excited about your job. I was doing my thing, seemed easier to keep work separate. Easier? She repeated the words slowly. Nathan, do you have any idea what's happening here right now? Derek found out this morning during the executive briefing. Apparently, the CFO mentioned that we should thank Nathan Cooper's firm for saving us 6 figures in potential breach costs last quarter. I grinned. Oh yeah? How'd Derek take that news? He turned white, like vampire white, like he'd seen a ghost or gotten a tax audit. Then he just sat there for the rest of the meeting looking like someone had told him Santa wasn't real and also he owed Santa back taxes. That's unfortunate, I said, not meaning it even a little bit. Nathan, this is serious. Everyone knows now. They know you're not just some carpenter husband. They know you're important, like actually important to the company. More important than half the people at that party. Over the next few days, Rachel kept me updated. Derek had tried rallying support from other department heads, painting himself as the sufferer of some elaborate misunderstanding. It didn't work. Turned out when you build a reputation on being difficult, condescending, and inappropriate, people aren't eager to defend you. The executives discovered I existed and suddenly found me very interesting. Rachel forwarded me emails, invitations to networking dinners, requests for coffee meetings. I politely declined most of them. I didn't want to be Summit's new golden boy. I'd built their system, I maintained it, and that was the extent of my interest in their company. 3 weeks later, I got an email that made me laugh so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. The subject line read, "Professional consultation request, confidential from Angela Martinez, Summit's head of HR." They were conducting a formal review of workplace conduct issues stemming from the annual party, and would I be willing to participate as a third-party professional consultant to provide context about the incident? Third-party consultant. What they really meant was, we need you to tell us what happened so we can figure out if we need to fire your wife's boss without getting sued. I called Rachel immediately. "Did you know about this?" "About what?" "HR wants me to come in for a meeting about the party." There was a pause. "They do? Oh my God, Nathan. Do you know what this means? They're actually taking this seriously. They're building a case. He might actually face real consequences." The meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I put on my good suit and drove to Summit's downtown offices. The building was one of those modern glass structures that looks like someone stacked shiny rectangles and called it architecture. Angela Martinez met me in the reception area, mid-40s, with the kind of efficient professionalism that suggested she'd seen every variety of workplace nonsense. She led me to a conference room where 3 other people waited, a guy from legal, a woman with a laptop taking notes, and Jennifer, Derek's assistant, who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. "We appreciate your willingness to participate in this review," Angela began. "This is a confidential proceeding regarding an incident at the company's annual celebration 6 weeks ago." I walked them through everything. Derek's approach, his condescending comments, the escalation, his speech about Rachel being his during work hours, and the spit. I kept it factual and professional. "Were there witnesses?" Angela asked. "About 40 of them, give or take. Pretty crowded around the bar." Angela made a note. "We've spoken with several attendees. Their accounts align with yours." She glanced at legal guy who gave a slight nod. "Mr. Cooper, I'm going to show you something." She pulled out an iPad and turned it toward me. Someone had recorded video of the whole thing. There was Derek, swaying slightly, delivering his territorial speech with misplaced confidence. The audio was crystal clear. "She's mine at work. You wait for your turn at home." Then the spit, looking even worse on video than I remembered. Casual, dismissive. My response was there too. "You sure you're her boss? Because that's the kind of thing HR uses as training material." "Yes," I said, pushing the iPad back. "That's what happened." "And how did this incident make you feel?" "Disrespected. He spat on me. That's not normal behavior. That's not professional behavior. If someone did that to him, he'd probably sue them and write a LinkedIn post about workplace toxicity." The meeting continued for 30 minutes. They asked about my relationship with Rachel, my work history with Summit, other interactions with Derek. I answered everything honestly with minimal sarcasm. As we wrapped up, Angela looked at me with something like respect. "Mr. Cooper, on behalf of Summit Creative, I want to apologize for what you experienced. That behavior doesn't reflect our values or standards." "I appreciate that. Though maybe save that apology for your employees who have to work with him every day." "We're addressing that," she said, and something in her tone told me Derek's days were numbered. 3 days later, Derek Walsh was suspended pending investigation. 2 weeks after that, he resigned to pursue other opportunities, corporate code, for "we were going to fire you, but we're letting you quit first." I got a gift basket from Summit's executive team with expensive coffee, chocolate, and a polite note thanking me for my professionalism. There was also a confidential settlement offer attached, asking me to sign an NDA in exchange for a payment. I declined the NDA, but kept the chocolate. 3 months after Derek's exit, Rachel came home one evening with news. They offered me Derek's position, creative director, his old job. Catherine Walsh would be my new boss. "Lucas, I got it. I actually got it." I picked her up and spun her around right there. "That's my girl. I told you that you were too good for that place. Turns out I was wrong." You're exactly perfect for that place now that they've removed the human obstacle. The promotion came with better salary, actual authority, her own parking spot, and most importantly, respect. She threw herself into the role with incredible energy. Within a month, she'd restructured her team, implemented new processes that didn't rely on intimidation, and transformed the creative department into a place people wanted to work. Productivity went up, morale went up, turnover went down. The next annual company party rolled around in March. Same venue, same overpriced everything, but with completely different energy. People approached me differently this time. No more condescending shoulder pats. They wanted to talk to me like I was a real person. Marcus from sales cornered me within 15 minutes. Nathan, man, I've been meaning to ask. I've got this home network set up, and I think maybe someone's piggybacking on my Wi-Fi. Is there a way to check? You're asking me for free tech support at a party? I mean, yeah. Marcus, buddy, I charge $200 an hour for consultations. His face fell. I'm kidding. Change your router password to something that isn't password 123 and enable WPA3 encryption if your router supports it. You're a lifesaver, man. A woman from the design team asked if I took commissions for custom furniture. I said I mostly built stuff for fun, but sent me the dimensions. Several people asked about encryption, smart home security, various tech questions. Even Todd tried engaging me about blockchain again, but I redirected him. At one point, a junior developer named Travis approached nervously. Mr. Cooper, I just wanted to say the system you built for us is really elegant. I've been studying the architecture as part of my onboarding, and the way you structured the authentication protocols is chef's kiss. Thanks, man. That means a lot coming from someone who actually looks at the code. Are you kidding? You're like a legend in our department. After he left, Rachel leaned in. You have fans, actual fans. How does that feel? Weird, also kind of cool, but mostly weird. Later in the evening, a small group gathered around me, techies and creatives asking about penetration testing, vulnerability assessments, whether I really built furniture or if that was a cover story. Rule 1, I said, warming to the audience, never underestimate a man with a hammer. Rule 2, never underestimate a man with a firewall. Master both and you're basically unstoppable. People actually laughed. Real laughs. Rule 3, I continued. If someone spits on you at a company party, make sure there's video evidence. Really helps with the HR proceedings later. The laughter got louder. Everyone knew what I was referring to. The Derek incident had become office legend. The real kicker came almost exactly 1 year after the original party. I was at a cybersecurity conference in Chicago, speaking on a panel about infrastructure security. Walking through the exhibition hall afterward, I spotted Derek at a vendor booth. He was wearing a cheap polo shirt with some startup's logo, doing demos for uninterested attendees. The guy who'd once strutted around Summit like royalty was now working a conference booth, probably making a fraction of his old salary. I could have walked away, taken the high road, but I'm petty enough to appreciate cosmic justice up close. I walked over to his booth, hands in my pockets. Casual. He didn't recognize me at first. Then recognition hit and his face cycled through 17 emotions in 3 seconds. Surprise, confusion, fear, embarrassment. Nathan, he said, voice cracking slightly. Wow, hi. I didn't expect to see you here. Funny, I work in cybersecurity. This is a cybersecurity conference. Where else would I be? Right, of course. He was sweating now. You were on that panel earlier, weren't you? I was. You catch any of it? No, We've been pretty busy here at the booth. He gestured at the empty space around him. The booth next to his had at least 15 people. His had me and nobody else. Looks like it, I said, not hiding the sarcasm. Awkward silence settled between us. He fidgeted with a stylus, clicking it repeatedly. The polo shirt looked cheap. His hair was different too, less aggressively styled. So, he said finally, you're doing well, I see. Big panel, probably consulting for major companies. Good for you. Yeah, it's going well. Rachel's doing great too, in case you were wondering. Creative director now. Your old job, actually. Well, I say your old job, but really she's made it into something completely different. Better. People actually like working there now. Productivity's up, morale's up. Funny how that works when you treat employees like human beings instead of property. The color drained from his face. Look, Nathan, about that night. The night you spat on me, I interrupted, keeping my voice conversational. The night you told me I had to wait for my turn with my own wife, that night, I was drunk. I made a mistake. I've apologized. No, you haven't. You made excuses. You tried to blame Rachel for not warning you about who I was. You never actually apologized, Derek. You just got caught and had to face consequences for the first time in your probably very privileged life. He looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my expression stopped him. What do you want me to say? Nothing. I don't want anything from you. I'm just enjoying the view. The universe has a way of sorting things out. You thought you were untouchable at Summit. Thought you could treat people however you wanted because you had power and influence and a fancy title. And now here you are, working a booth at a conference, probably making a fraction of what you used to make, trying to convince people to buy software that, I glanced at his display, appears to do exactly what every other security solution does, but with a prettier interface. It's a good product, he said defensively, but there was no conviction in it. I'm sure it is, and I'm sure you're doing your best with it. But here's the thing, Derek. You had everything. A great job, talented team, resources, respect, and you threw it all away because you couldn't handle the basic concept of treating people with dignity. That's not bad luck. That's not circumstances, that's choices. I watched him process this, saw him trying to find some comeback. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again like a fish gasping for air. For what it's worth, I hope you learned something from all this. I hope you're different now, better. But honestly, I don't really care either way. You're not my problem anymore. You're not Rachel's problem anymore. You're just a guy at a booth at a conference, and I'm just a guy walking by. I started to walk away, then paused and turned back. Oh, and Derek, just so we're clear on the final score here, Rachel's running your old department and killing it. I'm on panels and consulting for companies that actually value expertise over ego. And I gestured at the booth, at the cheap polo shirt, at the empty space around him. Well, you're here. His face had gone red now, that particular shade of humiliation mixed with impotent rage. You think you're so much better than me. I don't think about you at all, actually, I said, borrowing a classic line. But if I did, yeah, I'd think I was better. Because I don't spit on people. I don't claim ownership of other human beings. And when I screw up, I apologize instead of making excuses. I patted his shoulder, the same condescending gesture he'd used on me a year ago. Good luck with the booth, buddy. Hope you sell whatever it is you're selling here. I walked away without looking back. Behind me, I could hear him sputtering something, probably trying to formulate a comeback that would never come. I pulled out my phone and texted Rachel. You're not going to believe who I just ran into, she replied within seconds. Who? Derek, working a vendor booth at the conference, looking like someone who finally learned that actions have consequences. OMG, how was it? Therapeutic, very therapeutic. That evening, I called her from my hotel room. We talked for an hour about the conference, about Derek, about how far we'd both come in the last year. Do you feel bad for him? She asked. I thought about it, really thought about it. No, I feel like justice happened, not because I made it happen, but because the universe has a way of correcting itself. He built his career on intimidation and ego, and that foundation crumbled. That's not my fault. That's just gravity. You're very philosophical tonight. I'm very petty tonight, but I'm dressing it up in philosophy to sound mature. She laughed, that genuine belly laugh I loved. I'm proud of you, for standing up to him then, for being gracious now. I wasn't gracious. I was sarcastic and pointed and definitely rubbed salt in the wound. Okay, for being appropriately sarcastic then, for showing him that good guys don't always finish last. We don't. Sometimes we finish exactly where we're supposed to be, and the bad guys end up working booths at conferences in cheap polo shirts. It's poetic, really. A year ago, Derek Walsh had looked at me and seen nothing. Just a carpenter, just a spouse, just someone beneath his notice. He'd felt comfortable being cruel, being dismissive, literally spitting in my direction because he thought there would be no consequences. But power based on intimidation is just the house of cards waiting for a strong wind. And sometimes that wind comes from the most unexpected directions. From the carpenter who turns out to be the guy keeping your company's servers running. From the wife who's better at your job than you ever were. From the universe itself deciding that enough is enough. I'd once thought the best revenge was watching someone realize they picked the wrong fight. I was wrong. The best revenge was moving forward, building something better, and then accidentally running into them years later when they're at their lowest and you're thriving. And maybe, just maybe, reminding them one last time exactly why karma is real and patience really is a virtue. "Hey, Rachel," I said before we hung up. "Yeah? You're mine everywhere now. Not just at work, everywhere." She was quiet for a moment. Damn right I am. And that, finally, was the last word on Derek Walsh.